right. Quick microphone check for Facebook. Does it look good? Okay, sounds good. We'll just come closer. First of all, welcome. My name is Patrick Costin. I'm a Public Information Officer trainee with the Rocky Mountain Complex Incident Management Team 1. First of all, we'd like to ask that you silence your cell phones so we can hear the speakers. We just have a single speaker, so hopefully it projects far enough. But we've got, the purpose of the meeting is just for fire managers, local officials to talk about the fire, some of the plans, the management, what can we expect for the future as well. So our lineup is, first up, we'll have Cameron Mitchell, Agency Administrator for the Willamette National Forest. We've got Bad Petruska, Operations Section Chief. Also, Darren Clabo, he's our incident meteorologist, the weather expert. With him, we'll have Glenn Lewis, he's the fire behavior analyst. They'll be both presenting at the same time. Following them, we'll have Sarah Altimus Pope from the South Willamette Solutions. Following her, Kelsey Hunter, fire risk reduction specialist from Oregon State Fire Marshal. Following her, Scott Hollett, the local fire chief with Oakridge Fire and EMS. Then we'll follow up with Justin Conrad, incident commander for the team. We will let them go through the presentation. We won't take questions until after the presentations are finished. So if you can hold your questions. Once we finish up here, feel free to find one of us with the black shirts, any of the presenters. We'll also have public information officers stationed throughout the back at MAPS. If you have specific questions for them, please ask. If you're watching from Facebook, just type your comment in the chat. We have multiple people watching the Facebook page. They can answer those questions, or if you'd like to, feel free to send us a message, and we'll get back to you really fast. So with that, we'll go to Cameron Mitchell to start us off.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Cameron Mitchell. I'm the Acting District Ranger for Middle Fork Ranger District and Agency Administrator Trainee here on the Middle Fork Fires. So I wanted to welcome you here this evening. We had a public meeting here not too long ago, but we want to be talking with you often and keeping everybody as informed as we can, especially as time goes on and new things come up. So speak louder like this. Is this better? All right. So there's two main things that we're going to be talking about tonight. One is we have some weather coming this weekend that we need to be prepared for as a community, and we're working on that as an IMT. The IMT will talk about what we're looking at and how we're preparing for that. As a ranger district, we're consolidating our initial attack resources. So we'll be ready to take that on, and the team will be coordinating with us. I'll let the team talk more about that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is a team transition that we're looking at here with our local incidents. So last time we talked about kind of the bigger picture of what's going on around us. Right now, the nation is still at preparedness level 5. It's very early to be at preparedness level 5. And what preparedness level 5 means is that basically all resources are out. We're fully coordinating at a national level to deal with incidents across the nation. So that means that there's a lot of fire on the ground, there's a lot of resources moving around. So we're basically in full speed as a nation when it comes to firefighting. When we get to preparedness level 5, resources are pretty tapped. So it's very difficult for us to bring in resources all the way from firefighters to equipment, and that includes incident management teams. So we have complex incident management teams that are here to help us, and our current complex incident management teams on the Willamette are starting to time out because that lightning storm came in about 14 days ago. So they're getting to their 14-day mark, and that's when they start timing out to go back home, get rest, and move on to the next incident. So where that has left us as a forest is putting out orders for new CIMTs. CIMTs are a national resource. They're managed at the national level when we get to a certain preparedness level. Right now, all CIMTs are deployed. And so right now, there's many fires across the West that are actually going unstaffed by complex incident management teams because there are simply none available. And right now, we've issued orders for CIMTs, and we are actually, as a forest, getting returned no CIMTs available. So we were working hard for solutions, and Rocky Mountain Team 1, the team that's been managing Middle Fork fires for the last week and a half or so, has stepped forward to help us. So what they're going to do is they're going to extend their time here with us for about 5 days, and they're going to expand to take over all the fires that are currently on the Willamette as the Willamette Complex. So this is some pretty uncharted territory for the Willamette National Forest. The forest-wide complex is a really big deal here. And it's actually something I'm personally, as an agency administrator, very grateful for them to take that on. We're really fortunate with Rocky Mountain Team 1. They're actually designed to expand in this way. They have the resources for it. It'll still be a stretch, but this is actually, we're well positioned to actually have this transition go on with Rocky Mountain Team 1. So I'll let them kind of talk through more of the details of how that's going to work. We're in contact with, as a forest, all the ranger districts, the rangers, we're all talking as agency administrators. We're going to get our resources, our values aligned and work through all that. The team is going to be here to help us. This team has been really great during their time here. They've definitely had my full confidence in their ability to take more of this on. And I cannot express enough how fortunate we are to really have them here in our corner willing to take this on. It's actually a true service to the Willamette National Forest and to the communities around the Willamette National Forest. So with that, I'll pass it on and kind of let the folks from the team start running down the show here and get you all informed. But I'll be around after for questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Cameron. My name is Brad Petrescu. I'm an operations section chief with Rocky Mountain Team 1. So last time I was talking strategy. At the end, I think I mentioned something like think about what's changed, what's the same. So I'll try to key in on stuff that has changed out here from the last time we spoke to you. So starting up north with the current fires that we have delegated to us on the Chalk Fire. I'm going to start on the little ones first. We also have Tire Mountain Fire and McKinley over here. Those fires have had line and hose lays around them for the past several days, continue to be staffed by a few engines. McKinley over here, since the last meeting, did have, I think, a little slop over about 1 acre. That was quickly caught, looped back into the main fire. There is hose all the way around it. It's been being worked, and probably within a couple of days we're gonna see some containment, probably the whole thing, given that it's 20 acres or so on McKinley. Moving over to Tire Mountain, honestly not much change there. There continues to be one little edge right there where the fire is just kind of working its way down some really steep country towards our lines. So we've got folks watching that, waiting to take action. Once it gets down far enough, you just touch off the line with a little dribble of fire. It's got hose on line all the way around it. So feeling really good shape over here on Tire Mountain. Moving into the main Chalk Fire. So we see some more black on the map, and when we see black on the map, that means that we feel confident that that part of the fire is done moving. It no longer poses a risk. We communicate that through some of our reporting forms in terms of containment. And so that black line, not only is there a line there, because there's a lot of lines out here, that line is very secure at this point. And continuing around into this division Kilo, just today at our Over the Hood meeting where we meet with our operations chiefs or divisions, we're going to call the rest of this, black. So you will see containment as a metric going up on this fire, but that's not the whole story, right? There's a lot of other stuff that goes on when we're fighting fire. The stuff that doesn't get reported with a catchy word like containment that we're all keyed into is all the work that's gone in outside. So as we move up Division Alpha, we see all of these lines, and they're not highlighted super well here, but they exist. They're being improved all the way around this perimeter to get it back down to right here. I'm going to start on probably Kilo over here. So what's going on once we get containment? Well, given our lack of resources, we're being really flexible with the ones that we do have. As stuff is secured behind them through some burnouts, you can still see some holes that are cleaning up right now, but no threat to the line. As that stuff gets secured, Division Kilo and a lot of their resources have come in tight. As of right now, there's just a little bit of firing right off of roads to close this stuff up. Down here, fire's backing right to a road real gently. We want it to do that, and then we touch it off right there where it is. Going forward, there is this little bit here. It's checked fairly well in a stand that's probably less than 50 years old. So anywhere fires are encountering that kind of stand structure on this landscape, they're falling pretty hard on their face. So we're trying to take advantage of that. As they work around here, there are a few opportunities to kind of tuck it in. Again, if these lines don't hold in the next few days' weather, that's okay. Our primary mission is out here, getting this side of the fire tucked into the Gales Scar to the north right now. That's our focus area. Moving around to Division Alpha, a few days ago we mentioned a potential burnout operation. What I talked about last time with strategy is as new information comes in, we need to be adaptable and be able to change. Our weather forecast got a lot worse over the next few days, especially with our northwesterly winds, kind of turning, going straight north-south right over our line right here. We had a good long talk about it, and given the fact that this perimeter has stayed put for a week of a mixed bag of weather conditions, we're not being pushed right now to implement that. In a perfect world, we would want a lot more specialized resources to help us do that. We have been making some progress as far as getting helicopters, a few additional resources to help us do that sort of thing. But given that we're not being pushed, we're going to pick our shots on something like this. This is a really high priority division for us because straight south of here, right off the map, that's the thing that a lot of us care about. Oakridge, West Fir, High Prairie. All the infrastructure, the stuff that the town relies on, lives with, that's our huge focus for this operation. So timing that for us is critical. Obviously, we're not pulling people out of here by any means. Operations up in Tango will continue through this. The fire will continue to chunk, but it's in really poor alignment with this upcoming weather from just a general wind perspective. That's going to want to push it down to the southeast. So we're feeling good about our timing out there. We're not feeling pressed. We want this to be extremely successful. And the true issue comes in once we get fire up here. That's our critical holding point. So that younger stand I was talking about, it's really decadent. It's mature right here. It's on a ridge top, super exposed to the general winds. So we feel that this will get there more slowly on its own than if we were to introduce fire for the time being. Once we see a change in the weather, we're definitely going to capitalize on that. In order to get some security over here, not only on the southern perimeter, but also on this west side, right? Because we're still thinking forward about east winds a while from now. So not the right time for that burn on chalk, but continuing to look and identify when that time is going to be right. Obviously, tons of notification would have to come out to everybody, right? There's going to be more smoke from chalk. It's this thing we've been talking about, trying to pick our right time for it. So more to come on that, but that's where we stand right now with the fires that are up in branch 8 up north. So if we go to the next map, so I just said branch 8, this is branch 12. You'll notice that those numbers are not sequential and they don't start with 1. Again, that's due to all the fires around us. They already had a branch 1, 3, 5, and I think 9 somewhere. So we picked some different numbers so that when we're maybe getting some radio interference or talking, no one gets confused operationally. That's the same reason all of our divisions have these double letters already. Usually you see the double letters once you run through the alphabet, A through Z to start with. We just started there knowing that there's already 6 or 7 division alphas out there. So that's kind of a different thing. That's why it is the way it is out there. I'm actually going to start down here at the fires in the wilderness. 217 fire was called contained, I believe, yesterday. There continues to be a presence out there with 6 smoke jumpers who are left for the next few days. There's still a lot of pumps. There's still work that's happening out there, yet the line is really secure. We're feeling quite good about that. 208, working closely with the Eastern Area team over on the Deschutes that has the red fire as far as a long-term suppression strategy for this. Right now, this fire is growing. I think it grew 4 acres last night. It's been 1 acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, and the reason for that is the north side here is checked up essentially on rock on Diamond Peak, and then same story on most of the flanks. So the only way it's really moving is just little bits of rollout down here on the south end. So it'll roll, it'll maybe bubble up a little bit and run right back into itself. Really slow continued progression there, which is great. It's given us a lot of time to pick the right line. Coming off the eastern area side, or it is the eastern area, but the Deschutes side, working it around and piecing it together back to our other fires out here. Leaving those aside, moving to Moss Mountain. Moss Mountain, has a lot of potential, yet hasn't really demonstrated it yet. It's in a really, really steep area, even for the Willamette, which is surprising in its own right. But again, you see these pink lines. These are our planned lines. We do have some dozer line working in here with the intent to bring it on Division Sierra Sierra all the way across the bottom back to Coffee Pot. And as we go north on Whiskey Whiskey, same kind of story. Necking that thing down as we progress. What's gone differently on Moss? Honestly, not much, and that's interesting to us. So as this thing continues to be parked and we're out there longer and longer, that gives our divisions opportunities to notice a lot of roads that aren't on this map. We are taking some opportunities where they're presenting themselves to, again, maybe make a check line, see what fire behavior is going to do. But right, just because we have these lines identified by no means indicates that's our expected final fire perimeter. Those are what we call our anchor points, areas that, especially up on this north end, we feel fairly confident about, and those allow us to expand and seek other opportunities as we move in. Most of the prep as we go north on Division Whiskey Whiskey, especially up on this road, is complete. Crews are finishing that, just giving it some touch up. Lots of plumbing, lots of mechanical work, thanks to working with our partners at ODF and Sierra Pacific Industries, really helped expedite a lot of this line. Many, many miles that at first when we took the fire seemed kind of daunting, and made quite great progress given all the local expertise we've had helping us. So as we move across the top, those lines are in place. You notice this weird little doohickey on the end of the fire. Those are planned firing operations. So what's happened out here, again, as these primary lines are put in, people found areas of opportunity, started capitalizing on them. So instead of allowing the fire to come out on its own, we elected to bring fire out to some changes in fuels, favorable terrain features, and start introducing fire. So instead of letting it get here and firing everything defensively, bringing it out proactively with every intention of getting this checked right here, taking some of the punch from the eastern progression that it's liked, and then start working this down to Hills Creek Reservoir here. They had started lighting on that this afternoon. With their northerly winds in the area, my expectation is that it's going to go really well. And their stop point is somewhere in here today. So over the next few days, and it's hard to tell which fire is generating which smoke, if you're able to see this one, that's what the smoke is on this northern side. So again, our primary line, Hills Creek Reservoir. As we move to the south, Division Papa Papa has been kind of our trouble child the whole time. I believe the night of the last community meeting, it did decide to throw a spot 1 mile under really moderate burning conditions. We were able to get crews to that, get that lined. That spot is effectively contained. It's looking really good. But given our northerly wind direction funneled by this lake, it continues to test us. So fire continues to move down, and we fire off of our control lines. Yesterday, as we were doing that, we late in the afternoon discovered this little fella down here. So that was a spot fire that had probably been sitting there for 18 hours or so was the estimate. I was up flying, and I couldn't get in there just from smoke, from visibility. So on discovery, it was estimated 150 acres. Upon better mapping, that thing is 28 acres. Early this morning, we had crews up in there identifying opportunities, combination of hand crews, dozers. Last report I have is that this is plumbed most of the way. It is lined most of the way. It is checked on this end on a regen stand. And so, not going to say I'm overly confident in that, but it has not exhibited more growth today, which is a great thing. That still allows us to focus on this primary. Moving forward with the expectation, we'll continue to secure this with the arrival of some of our aircraft that we've had on station all day, really early in the morning, helping support that. They did get chased out by visibility later on, but they had done a ton of work, allowed us to get a toehold in on that spot fire. As we progress down here, the going actually gets a little bit better, and it gets better from a fuels perspective in that once we get up a little bit further, we get into more of those regeneration stands, the things that have proved a really effective check on fire behavior, and we get out of some of this older growth timber. Once we get it on the ridge, it gets even more favorable for us. So I'm not saying by any means it's a done deal. It's very touch and go, but we're in as good of a position as we can be given the resources we have available. I've been going for a while. Last big update is we've been here long enough. We're taking some more fires, so that is increasing our priority within the region a little bit. And we've actually seen some orders happening and things that we've been wanting the whole time starting to trickle in. We did have another hotshot crew arrive earlier, and they have capabilities for UAS, unmanned aerial systems, or a drone. And we immediately sent them out there looking for more spot fires, knowing this is a problem area for us. That gives you the nuts and bolts of what's going on up to the minute. If we hit the next slide, I'll just take a second and put it in the broader picture. Where are we? All right, goodness. Okay, so up here is Coffee Pot. It's off the map. Moss Mountain's over here. As we zoom out to the boundary of the Middle Fork Ranger District with the Umpqua National Forest, these fires continue varying levels of staffing. Some of them are completely unstaffed, just given the team's priorities that are managing those to the south on the Umpqua. As you go to the Diamond Complex, the Limolo fire, a very high priority for them given infrastructure here. This is a power line. So they really want to address some of these fires. There's another 30 or so that team has further to the south all around Diamond Lake. Moving over to this neck of the woods, these are the Homestead Complex fires managed by Great Basin CIM. So we get on calls every couple of days just to check in with them, see what they're up to. On this morning's call, these continue to be unstaffed, and there's some complexities if we were to just go out there, start prepping roads and stuff like that, given the fact that there's not just one to be addressed, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has a lot of potential to come up to the ridge through here. So it's a dynamic situation with those fires on the border. The one thing we have in our favor is time right now, time to allow these other teams to gain a toehold where their priorities are, which is generally the western perimeter, as well as these southern fires, I think on 138 down there that feeds into Toketee and Diamond Lake and all of that kind of stuff. So we're not forgetting that these are here, but with our priorities and our resource scarcity shortages, we are focusing in those areas that there are important things to the community for us to be protecting. So we know they're here. They're definitely part of strategies that we're trying to develop right now. From a staffing perspective, a lot of things have to happen in order for any kind of successful operation to go on in here. Lots of time prior to reaching the 19 road up there, generally downhill. In this neck of the woods, fires going north and downhill rapidly is much less common than, going west and rapidly downhill. So I'm going to stop there and give it to Darren, I believe, our incident meteorologist.
Good evening, Darren Clabo, incident meteorologist for Rocky Mountain Team 1. This is Glenn Lewis. He is our fire behavior analyst. We're going to be kind of tag teaming a little bit of a presentation for y'all. But first, I just want to say thanks to the community. You guys have been amazing hosts, and I just appreciate everything. It's a small town. I come from a really small town in Minnesota. And so just thank you. I do appreciate that. I am the incident meteorologist, which means that I'm here to forecast the weather to ensure the safety and efficiency of our firefighters as well as the larger incident management organization and the community at large. Up here is what we call our weather matrix. There's some colors. I'll kind of go through what we're talking about. Today's conditions, so this is today, Wednesday. This is tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going into Monday. The colors reference different burning conditions. So green would be kind of moderate or low burning conditions. Yellow would be any conditions that lead to elevated fire concerns. And then critical burning conditions would occur under the pink conditions. And these are things that I've looked at with historical fire growth in the area. The particular weather elements that I'm really interested in with respect to this matrix are what I call the sensible weather elements. Temperature. Right here. Precipitation and lightning don't really add to the critical conditions, but there are things that we're going to consider. Wind is a huge one. And then relative humidity, or the humidity is the amount of moisture in the air. And things that we've determined to be critical, relative humidity, less than 25%. So today we saw 32% on the fire. Tomorrow we're expecting a little bit lower, getting close to that 25% critical time frame, or RH frame. And then moving forward, not as critical. Temperature, however, today, mid-80s. Tomorrow, 94 degrees. That's going to be the hottest temperature that we've seen since we arrived as an incident management team. Going forward, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, temperatures in the 80s to upper 80s. The one thing that is on here that's not necessarily sensible, cloud cover. This fire likes sunshine like the Cookie Monster likes cookies. All right, it likes to eat when it gets sunshine. So today we didn't see a lot of cloud cover. Tomorrow we're not going to see a lot of cloud cover. Friday, increasing clouds. Saturday, potentially a cloudy day with a chance of thunderstorms, unfortunately in the afternoon and evening. I do think, however, the thunderstorms are mostly going to be along the spine of the Cascades and even east of the Cascades, maybe out towards Bend in the high desert country. Going forward, Sunday, we're going to start to clear out, and Monday onward, I do expect clear skies. There's kind of a double-edged sword. Right now, we're seeing a lot of smoke setting into the valleys. It's local smoke. It's smoke that's our chalk fire's producing. It's smoke that Coffee Pot's producing. It's smoke that the Homestead Complex, Ad Mountain Fire, all of that smoke is settling into the valleys, running downhill, and clogging up the air for us. But this fire likes sunshine, and smoke is blocking out that sunshine. The one thing that is preventing this fire from really munching today is the smoke. It's not seeing the sunshine. Unfortunately, I'm thinking this time frame, especially Sunday, Monday, we're going to start clearing some of that smoke out. And some of that smoke could clear as early as Friday as well. So that's the one thing that I'm really going to be watching, and the one thing that's making me a little bit nervous, if you will, going into the future. I don't mean to scare anybody, but it's just something that gives me pause. What smoke does is it limits sunshine. Sunshine heats the ground heats the air rises. When we get rising air, it sets up what we call a convective circulation. Basically, the air spins in the vertical. That mixes the smoke out, creates clear skies, but it allows that fire to breathe. And that's the one thing that this fire is missing. It's choking itself off right now, and it wants to breathe, but it can't. If we were able to mix that smoke out, this fire is able to breathe. So there's three things that we focus on in terms of seeing when, where, and why wildfire is going to spread across the landscape. One of those things is weather. That's what I'm here to talk about. The other two things are the topography and the fuels that are on the landscape, and Glenn's going to touch a little bit about those.
Thanks, Darren. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Louder? Is that okay? Okay, that's normally not a problem for me. Okay, so as Darren talked about, the weather is a critical factor. So again, very first thing you learn when you become a firefighter is that there's three things that drive fire spread, fire behavior. That's fuels, weather, and topography. Darren covered a little bit about the weather. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the topography. Topography is the one thing element of this that doesn't change, right? If we go out there on the ground where these fires are next year, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the topography is going to be the same. Out here in this country, you have very steep topography. You have very broken topography. It changes aspect a lot. It moves around. It has these deep canyons and drainages. And that it will have an effect on fire behavior. What's really important when we think about this in this fire triangle that we call it, is that the topography is out there. We know that doesn't change. The fuels can change and the weather can change. So what we look for is when we get the alignment, we call it, of at least two of those factors, or more commonly when three of those factors all line up. So if we have a steep slope, we have receptive fuels out there, and we have the wind blowing on it, then we call that in alignment, and that is going to accelerate fire spread significantly out there. So as Darren kind of showed here, wind hasn't been a huge factor in these fires out here thus far. We don't anticipate strong winds as in the near future, but they can play a factor, as we all know. Topography. Out here in the Pacific Northwest, and even here on this, it's common for fires to get in alignment with the heavy fuels in the absence of wind and burn uphill. And that gets those two factors in alignment, and then you build some heat and you see that column pop up. What we're seeing right now is an early fire season here, and than what has normally happened. And that's been driven by really one factor, and that has been the very dry, deadened down fuels out there. And that is the woody material, the big branches, the logs, all of that stuff. The live fuel moistures are actually kind of normal for this time of year, which is, and that is kind of holding back fire behavior right now. The live fuels are things that we think about, things like grass, brush, deciduous trees, and even the conifer needles are live fuels. They're still holding on to some moisture because we're still a little bit early in the season. However, that understory fuels and Brad talked about this a little bit. Those heavy fuels generate a lot of heat, especially out here. This is very productive ground. You grow a lot of timber. Things grow big out here. As those stands mature, some of the trees fall over, they die, the branches self-prune, and you start accumulating a lot of heavy fuels in it. So what we see is in the mature stands, there's a lot of heavy deadened down in those mature stands. And when we get those lined up with the steep slopes, especially when the fire is at the bottom of those, if you think about fire flows in the opposite direction typically that water goes. So if you think about water running down hills or down canyons or whatever, fire does the exact opposite. It runs the other way. So when you get fire at the bottom of a steep slope with heavy fuels on it, it's going to produce a lot of heat and it's going to make a run to the top. Not uncommon out here for it to do that. It will run to the top of the hill and it will lay down because it has lost that alignment. Now it lays down and you don't see a lot of activity for a while, right? What it's doing is creeping around the slope, creeping back down to get in alignment for the next run. And so that's what you see. So that's really a big factor here. One other thing that is really important out here, and out here those heavy deadened down fuels are really a big driver in fire behavior. One other factor that's a little bit unique to you guys is all the lichen in the trees. That lichen is the perfect fire starter. And so far, because we've been having pretty high relative humidity still, that lichen hasn't been really receptive. And that lichen does a couple of things. One, it helps the fire spread up the tree because it's very super fine. It dries out quickly when it does it, and it carries the fire up into the trees. But it also, when it does that, it dislodges itself from the trees. That convective column that Darren was talking about lofts it, and it floats around like a feather. And sometimes downwind, but again, complex terrain here, sometimes the wind doesn't go all in the same direction. It goes up for this way for a while, and then it goes that way. So that's a huge deal, and Brad was talking about some of those spots. On a couple of days that we got a little bit drier, warmer temperature, and we could get that heat up, and we got a little bit of a good smoke column going, that's what happened. It threw those spots out there. They landed, and they start burning. And again, in this with all the smoke in there, in the area, and with steep ground and really tall trees, it's really hard to find those safely. So what we're seeing here, one thing I do want to point out is we're getting down into that range, especially tomorrow. Once we start dropping around 30% relative humidity, and especially into that 25% range, that lichen wants to burn. And so that becomes a factor. And so that is something that we're really watching for. It's really a troublesome thing because it's very hard to account for because you don't really know where it's going to land exactly. So the other thing that Darren kind of alluded to is the instability of the atmosphere. If you think about these heavy fuels that get on the ground out there and they make a good run, they come in alignment with the slope, they produce a lot of heat. That run up one slope can produce a lot of heat, and you'll see that smoke column go up. When the air's unstable, it's like opening up the damper on your chimney, right? So suddenly now it can vent out, it starts pulling in that oxygen, and you start accelerating the fire that way. So if you think about it, and it continues to build, and that's one of the concerns with the unstable air out here when it does clear out, because it doesn't happen all that often out here. When it clears out, that's really a big deal. So if you think about it, because it's not just that it starts to move faster, it's a self-feedback loop where it accelerates. If you think about it, last time you were on an airplane, right, you go to take off, what do? They hit the brakes, and they throttle that thing up, and the whole plane starts shaking, and it starts building up energy, right? That's the same thing. It's burning fuel, right? Then they let off the brakes, plane starts to take off, accelerates 50, 100 miles an hour, 150 miles an hour, and at some point then it gains enough momentum to keep going and to lift off and get up into the air, right? The important thing to remember here is that maybe that first 50 miles an hour to get there takes 8 seconds. From 50 to 100, that might take 6 seconds. And from 100 to 150, we might be down to 3 or 4 seconds now, right? And that's because of the momentum that this thing is building. And so that's kind of the concept behind this instability and what happens when the plume of the fire starts affecting the fire. And I'm going to turn it over to Darren to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and that really comes back to this idea of wind speed. So this is the larger scale wind speed. During the daytime, Eastern Oregon breathes in, pulls in air from the ocean. At night, it breathes out, pushes the air back towards the ocean in a real light fashion. We're not expecting strong winds. During the daytime, this is daytime wind direction, by the way, northwest winds. Big fire growth out here occurs with east winds, right? I'm not seeing any east winds in the forecast at all for at least the next 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks. But the one thing that changes is this idea of what we call a plume-dominated fire, or a fire that occurs under very unstable conditions. If you get enough heat on a fire, that air rises. Well, the atmosphere doesn't like vacuums, and so it pulls in air towards the fire from all directions. And you can actually get a fire that potentially can create its own weather around it. And so those are the things that we're going to be looking for over the next 4 to 7 days. We're going to be communicating those to our firefighters on the ground, and we'll be communicating that to you all through our cooperator meetings, through public meetings, and through our PIOs.
Okay, thanks, Darren. Yeah, and I'd just like to kind of close with that idea again. We've been tracking this, and it's been pretty consistent, and Brad kind of alluded to it. So what we're doing is these crews, because we know these things, the crews have been leveraging those stands with less heavy fuels out there and that aren't in alignment. And when he talks about those reproduction stands, those are areas that we can work and be successful in. And so these are the kind of things that we're watching very closely and looking for those opportunities where the fuels are lighter and the slopes are not in alignment, and that the fire isn't at the base of it, and that we don't have that opportunity for the wind to align or whatever. So they're really leveraging that when they're using the fire behavior knowledge to work that. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I think a lot of you know who I am. My name is Sarah Ultimus Pope. I'm the Executive Director with South Willamette Solutions with Oakridge Air and the Southern Willamette Forest Collaborative, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about smoke. So we don't want wind on our fires, we know that, but we do need a little bit of wind to blow smoke out of our community. And right now with the weather pattern we have had a little bit of relief in the evenings, and that's been good. But some reminders I want to give folks is that we are in this for the long haul. So when we do get those moments of relief, it's a good time to open up your windows, air out your home, because you can trap smoke in during the day. Close those windows back down for the night, and try to create a cleaner airspace within your house with a purifier. If you did not receive a Grove Pure air purifier from us in the last 2 fire seasons, we still do have them. To qualify, you just have to live in Oakridge and Westford and not already have one in your home. So if you don't have one, come see us at our office, and we can get you a Grove Pure with a replacement filter. The next thing I want to tell you guys is we do have a small stock of replacement air filters for people that qualify for them. So I'm going to go through what the qualifying factors are. We are pushing out this information on our social media, newsletters, and everything else. And I did bring some handouts tonight if you want to grab them. But if you did not receive a filter replacement, so when we give you a Grove Pure, we give you 1 filter replacement. If you did not receive one of those since 2022, then you're eligible for one. So if you got one in 2023 last year or earlier this year, you're not eligible. If you got one in 2022, you're eligible. Now we're going to talk about the other criteria. This is going to be an income qualifying basis, and so we're going off of a really standard formula for income qualifying. So it's 60% of median income. So for a household of 2, that's $43,000 a year. For a household of 4, that's $64,000 a year. That's the second qualifying factor. And then have a heart or lung condition, a child under 12 living in the home, or are pregnant. And sorry for right now that we have to have these requirements, but we just don't foresee right now another stock of replacement filters coming from Oregon Health Authority, and we want to get them out to the folks who are most vulnerable in our community. So that's those priorities. The other thing I want to talk to you about is A couple factors that we've found with the Grove Pures is one, after 3 months, no matter what, the light will turn on and tell you need to replace your filter. The manufacturers come out and said that's not the case. Your filters are actually good for a year of use. They even get better over time. So that's a year of continuous use. If you put it away during the wintertime and you weren't using it, then think about how many months you actually ran it. Do run your filter through the whole life of that filter. They're $70 a piece, so you might as well get the most use out of them you can. And we have also a flyer that has links to purchase a new one and to go on the website and to see the same information, videos and whatnot that I'm telling you. So I'll be here afterwards if you have any questions. And I think the last thing I wanted to remind folks is that the great thing about these purifiers, if you already have a Winx from us, one of the older ones or a Honeywell, do come and grab one of these. They have a built-in PM 2.5 monitor, so you can actually tell, what the condition is in your house with a PM 2.5. So that's really great to have that ability. And then also, just a reminder, a cleaner airspace in our community always is the Oakridge Public Library. So during their regular hours, they have HEPA filtration. That's another place to go to get clean air. But yeah, as we're kind of setting up for the long haul with this, think about when you can, get a day out of town. We don't have to go far to get out of smoke. So if you can get a day in Eugene to get some relief, these are kind of those mental health effects that we've seen over the past couple years, this long duration smoke. Same thing with kids, getting kids out of town and getting them somewhere they can run and play in clean air. Those are important things as we're thinking about, what we're going to be facing here. But if you have any questions, I'll be here afterwards. Thanks.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I'm Kelsey Hunter. I'm a fire risk reduction specialist with Oregon State Fire Marshal. I'm on the mitigation and preparedness side of things. And so I brought some pointers here to focus on that you can do today. I'm happy to talk to you after this about long-term planning for your home and your property. I also have pamphlets that go over that information and wildfire preparedness guidebooks that you are welcome to take a handful of to give out to your neighbors. Things that you can do today, it's critical that you focus on your home and the first 5 feet. They are the most susceptible to fire embers. Fire embers can travel miles ahead of a fire front, and they're really the number one cause for structure fires during wildfire season. So some of these tips that you can do, remove debris and wood piles and move them further away from your home and any outlying structures. Removing vegetation from the first 5 feet around your home. This is called defensible space. Cleaning gutters and removing debris, if it's safe to do so. I think Chief Hollett would make sure that I gave that safety plug. Park your RVs and boats further away from structures. Fiberglass is combustible. Store outdoor textiles indoors, especially on red flag warning days or if you're leaving town. Those include outdoor rugs, doormats, patio furniture cushions, shades, and umbrellas. These are flammable. And be prepared. Sign up for emergency notifications. You can do that by Googling Lane County emergency notifications. Fuel your car so that you're prepared to go in case there is a cause or need for evacuation. And have your go bag ready with all the essentials that are listed on Lane County Emergency Management website. In addition, make sure that you're covered with medications, medical devices, and important documents, which includes financial and identifying information. This is my contact information. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions you have if you're not able to stay afterwards. If you're handy and you know how to use or access a QR code, this takes you to all of Oregon's wildfire programs, which includes insurance, programs through Oregon Department of Forestry, and clean air. And I'm going to hand it off to Chief Hollett. Thank you, sir.
Hello, everybody. Scott Hollett, Oakridge Fire Chief. Just want to remind everybody that during fire season, there's no open burning. Please use a lot of caution when you're out there. We're very susceptible, so we want to protect our area. Also, just a reminder that we follow Oregon Department of Forestry's guidelines for lawn mowing and grass cutting and that sort of thing. So if you have any questions, you can go on the South Cascades website for ODF and find out that information and what the restrictions are. And you can always give us a call also if you have any questions. We do have an increased call volume this time of year, and we have been very busy, but we've been able to answer those calls. Partly thankfully to Oregon State Fire Marshal's office. We received a grant for upstaffing during fire season, so we do have additional personnel that can help us out. Also just thankful to the incident management team here. They've been working extremely closely with us, keeping us informed of what's going on, what to expect, asking our input, and we're just sharing information, and it's very, very valuable to the department and the community of Oakridge, Westford, and Hazeldale. We have been doing a lot of planning with Oregon State Fire Marshal's office, Lane County, and the incident management team. Should the need arise for structural protection, all we have to do is make a phone call to the Lane County Fire Defense Board, and they will contact the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office, and we can have a task force up here in a very short amount of time to help us with structural protection. That's all I have. Thank you. Brent, did you have anything you wanted to add? Brent from Oregon State Fire Marshal Office.
Yeah, just real quickly. Hi, Brent Griffiths. I'm with the State Fire Marshal's Office Emergency Response Unit. I'm a regional mobilization coordinator. I'm assigned to Lane County and have been assigned to Lane County since 2021. And my role within the region here is to be closely connected with the local fire service, with our mutual aid partners from Lane County, and making sure that there's good communication and coordination between them, the incident management team, so that in the event that resources are needed up here, that we can get those resources, that they're prepared and get those resources up here as quickly as possible. Again, I've been up here since 2021. I've spent, unfortunately, a lot of time up here. I was here for the Middle Fork Complex, here for Cedar Creek, here for a short while the salmon fire was burning here just a little bit east of town. But just want to really appreciate or send a thank you, express a thank you to the incident management team here. They have been great at making sure that we are included in their briefings, that they're giving us the information that we need about expected fire behavior, and really helping us plan as we need to for the eventuality that resources are needed. So we'll remain connected, and we as the state stand by to assist as we're able if needed. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Justin Conrad. I'm the Incident Commander Trainee for Rocky Mountain Area, Team 1. As you heard from Cameron, here in the next couple days, we're going to be delegated responsibility for 3 fires to the north of us. That's the Orr, Pyramid, and the Slight Fire. Now, I want to make it clear to the public that one thing is that we will not be reducing our footprint on any of the fires that we've talked about here locally. Our first priority is these fires here in and around Oakridge. So our role when we move up to Pyramid is going to be providing support and both logistical support and oversight to the firefighters and the personnel that are assigned out there. We know that this is going to be a big lift for the team. But this team has been designed as such so we have the capability to branch off, to cover large geographic spaces, and to provide this. It's something the team's done a handful of times in the past and in the last few years, and it's something that we're all well equipped to deal with. So we've got 9 days left in your community. Our last operational shift is going to be August 9th, and so we're super supportive of what the Willamette has come up with in terms of bridging this gap between us and the next incident management team. So thank you for considering that idea, and we're happy to be here to help and support these fires and your guys' communities. So thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'll pass it back off. Thanks.
All right, so this concludes our meeting. Once again, we'll be stationed close to the maps. We'll have some folks up here. If you have questions, please come up and talk. Facebook, once again, message us. We'll get those answered. And thanks for coming. Appreciate it.